So, John Spencer, Amulet Talk, FAQ. I got an email from somebody who bought an amulet that's about maybe 35 years old or 40 years old, and another one, I don't know how many years old, and said to me after receiving, if it didn't, doesn't it have the original box? The amulet comes with the box. Very Singaporean thing, this. So first thing I'm going to say, and I'll end with it as well, is that in the fake factories and markets, it's more easy to buy a box than the amulet itself, because the easiest thing to fake is not the amulet, it's the box. And so the box is the easiest thing to fake. And so if an amulet has a box, that doesn't mean it's real. In fact, if an old amulet has a box, it's highly unlikely, because most people take the amulet out and wear it and at some point move house and lose the box. And that's why most amulets that are that aren't brand new, from new era amulets, don't have a box. Secondly, only about 10% of temples put their amulets in boxes, and not all of them. Some of them go into plastic or paper like envelope slips with a little mini poster of the monk or whatever, or the name of the edition, and don't get a box. Only the more expensive amulets get put in a box, or coins. And so this one was an earthen amulet, actually hand pressed by a certain monk called Lumpur Gawai, I believe, if I remember correctly. And actually Lumpur Gawai himself, as far as I know, never, ever, ever, ever released a single edition putting his amulets in boxes. He just handed them out, and they just got distributed like that. They don't have boxes. And so this particular person asking in this FAQ said that if the amulet doesn't come in the original box, how can you tell it's a real amulet or a copy one? Because there are so many sellers claiming to be real these days, and that I'm really pissed off because many times I've been cheated. Well, I'm sorry. I know many of you do. But stop thinking that the box is proof of real, because the box is the easiest thing to fake. What you need to do is look at the amulet and see if it's real and know. Or know that the person you're buying from is honest and knows how to look at the amulet. Which I publish lots of things on YouTube to prove that I know how to look at the amulet, so that people trust me. And which most of these other sellers who tricked this guy, who he's talking about, don't know. They can't even explain the amulet because they can't read and write Thai. They can't, they were never a monk like me. They never made amulets like me. They never learned the Wichao of making amulets like me. They didn't spend 25 years hanging around with local amulet knowledgeable people, older people of each area, asking them and comparing and collecting and learning and reading books in Thai about amulets. None of them did any of this. And they don't publish their knowledge because they don't have any. Whereas I published 7 ebooks. And a couple more, actually. I've published 8 because I've published another free one just about amulets, explaining editions, which year it came from, what it's made from, what's in it, and blah blah, which edition it was, and so on, showing my knowledge, which isn't bragging. It is instilling trust in the person who's buying from me. But this person is not trusting me and saying, if it doesn't have a box, how can I know it's real? I just want to share to you, even coming from Thailand itself, I just hope it's 100% real and has the power in it, because I had a lot of bad luck. Well, I feel sorry for you, but don't worry, you've got a real amulet. But it never came with a box, was never released with a box. And I can't remember if it was from Lumpur Gawai or from Lumpur Sealing Dam, but I know that even Lumpur Sealing Dam did not release all of his amulets in boxes. He released the Somdet Ong Patom and the Somdet Hang Mak, the little Somdets that are so famous from him. But the Buddha riding animals, which he made for continuing the Wichao of Lumpur Pan of Wat Bang Nom Kho, Buddha riding a porcupine, Buddha riding a fish, Buddha riding a bird or a chicken, a cockerel, and so on, or Hanuman or Garuda. None of those were ever released with a box, except after the death of the monk and the temple of Luang Por Goe and the temple of Luang Por Sealing Dam. So Wat Kositaram and Wat Tasung began to release posthumous editions, which were not blessed by the dead monk, the passed away monk. And modern editions you can find in boxes. Yes, some, not all. It depends on the edition if they decide to make a box for it or not. So, firstly, the assumption that all amulets must have a box is wrong. Secondly, boxes are the easiest thing to fake. Thirdly, old amulets like 700-year-old Pratgrut amulets from Mapasi Mahatad or from the Grut Tap Cow in Sukhothai, didn't have boxes because they didn't make them in those days. Didn't even invent plastic then. Never mind making a plastic box, filling it with felt and laser printing some kind of name of the temple and the maker and the year and the edition on the top of the box. And so, how do I know it's real if it doesn't have a box? Well, if you just bought a 1,000-year-old or a 700-year-old Pratgrut hiding place or burial archaeological dig find amulet, how the duck, do you expect it to have a box, for God's sake? And even if it is a modern edition that was released with a box, getting it with the box does not necessarily mean it's real, because boxes can and are faked. And that's one of the ways that the tricksters get Singaporeans, Malaysians, Taiwanese, Hong Kongese, and anybody who can't read, write, or speak Thai or doesn't know this fact. Even Thai people fall for it, But my first answer to, if it didn't come in the original box, how can you tell it's real amulet or not, was just this. The same way that you tell a 700-year-old Pratgrut amulet with decades of knowledge acquisition. That's how. How do you tell an amulet is real if it doesn't have the box with it, the original box? Well, if it's a 700-year-old amulet, the only way you can tell is with decades of knowledge acquisition, isn't it? Because there isn't a box. So what's all this stuff about, does the amulet have a box? What you should be interested in is if the amulet is real or not, because having a box isn't going to help you know if the amulet is real. So, and if it's a 100-year-old one, it won't have a box. And if it was made yesterday by a small temple, hand-pressed, that doesn't have a lot of money to order boxes for the amulets made, and each amulet is slightly different in shape, so it would be hard to make a box with felt cutouts that would fit every single one, then they don't make a box. They save money and they put it inside a plastic slip, and they put a little photo in there of the edition or the monk, and there's no box. So, people, please, this is my podcast about does an amulet have to have a box to know if it's real? Or I think I'm going to call this podcast, if it doesn't have a box, how do you know the amulet is real? Because that was my answer, And fake factories, they make boxes, and it's easier to make than the amulets. And so anybody's fixation on the box proving authentic is a false fixation. It's a false concept and a false assumption, because the box, once more I will finish as I started, can be faked more easily than the amulet. So why are you asking if it doesn't? You can ask, does it have the box with it or not? I'll say yes or no. But if you say, if it doesn't have the box, how can I know if it's real? I'll say, the same way you know a 700-year-old amulet that never had a box is real, with knowledge, experience, and decades of study. Yeah, and having held a real one in the hand, seen a fake one, compared them, and spent half an hour a day for maybe, let's say, a month, looking at them until you see everything and it starts to pop up into your eye. And that's how you do it, not by seeing if it's got a box or not. And so, let's put an end to this. Case closed. Amulets do not need a box to authenticate themselves with, because the box means absolutely nothing, because it can be faked more easily than faking money, amulets, more easily even than faking a chopped off finger with a hot dog and tomato ketchup and a knife and leaving it in the sink, which I actually fooled somebody with once. That actually works. It works if the people are don't look closely enough. But boxes, they're even easier to fake than that. So amulet boxes do not give you any kind of security at all. If the amulet doesn't have a box, how can I know if it's real or not? Only with knowledge, or trusting the knowledge and the integrity of the trader you are getting it from, or developing your own knowledge. There you go. Does an amulet need a box to be real? No. Case closed. Ajahn Spencer for Amulets TV, Buddha Magic Project, and my own channel. Signing off.